All right, welcome to April TriEmbed meeting. I don't see any newcomers here. I'm a little disappointed. I told a few people at RARSFest about the meeting on Monday night, and I expected at least one of them to show up. I sent out an announcement to the list from the Burlington, Alamance County Maker people. They're doing some kind of video programming, video production meetup tomorrow. Don't know if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff. I went to one of their meetings about a month ago on Arduinos, and it was interesting. Any other announcements, things that are upcoming? All right, RARSFest was last Saturday. Scott Hall coordinated the Maker Island once again. TriEmbed had 2 tables, which I filled with doodads of my projects. Splat Space was there. The Forge Initiative was there. The Alamance Maker folks were there. Ken from Ken's Robotics was there for the Triangle Area Robotics. I can't remember the last time I saw Ken. It's probably been 4 years ago.
I thought that was defunct.
Well,
is Ken reviving it?
I don't know. He showed up, had some funky looking little robots, and showed them off to people. So I guess the most questions were about the bicycle speedometer. Everybody wanted to know how the wheel was spinning by itself. And I would grab it with my hand and give it a spin. And they go, oh, I thought it was generating electricity or doing something,
Perpetual motion.
Yeah, that's what they thought. And then had a lot of interest in custom PCBs from Osh Park. And then some kids that came by liked to play with the tic-tac-toe game. The cat feeder worked for a little while and then stopped working. I switched batteries and it then continued to work some more. But it was a good day. As usual, at about 1:30, people started to leave. So the attendance kind of crashed then, and it was raining, so it was kind of messy setting up and tearing down. But it was, I would say, typical of RARSFests from the past. Talked to a lot of people, and then so far nobody's showed up. I don't know if there have been any additions to the email list or not, but
there have not.
Okay. Yep. Well, that's what happens. I did not bring my LCD liquid column display. I just didn't have enough time to get it back up and working.
You say liquid column display?
Yeah, it's a series of 16 1-inch clear acrylic tubes that has colored water in it. And then there are...
Oh, I remember that thing.
There are solenoids at the bottom that inject air bubbles, relatively big air bubbles, that climb up the column. And you control the sequence of bubbles, and the goal was to be able to spell people's names and things, but it never quite lived up to the game. You can make smiley faces, and you can make zigzags, and but it definitely attracts a lot of attention. All right, any other announcements? Let's see if I can share my screen.
Thing that bears getting into the recording is that Carl published the video of the last Edger project meeting from the 31st onto YouTube.
And I put a link to it on the website today.
Yeah, for some reason, the audio on that recording was horrible. Even when people spoke that were video conferencing in, their audio was bad also. I really have no clue why that happens.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, what frustrates me is that we don't get any feedback during the meeting.
Right. Everything seemed great during the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that the people that were at the meeting had troubles hearing. It just means that the video.
Nobody did. Everything sounded
We
fine.
periodically queried the remote folks, and we didn't get feedback. So, but this is telling me that we need more and better microphones.
That's not what it's telling me. It's telling me that the recording gets different audio than the participants.
Yeah, it is entirely possible that the audio came out of Carl's speaker and went into his microphone. But beyond that, what would be the mechanism? What would be the mechanism for the recording getting different audio? Yeah, but the other thing that's crystal clear is we need to do some more testing, and this time, close the loop. Make recordings, play back the recordings, and debug this and get it fixed, because the content of the last meeting, in my opinion, was killer, and it's extraordinarily frustrating to hear that it's a punishing experience to watch the YouTube. So I'm taking this as a high priority action item.
Well, the thing is that it never seems to happen with these videos, the ones we do on the second Monday, right? For TriEmbed. It always happens, or it has various degrees of audibility, let's put it that way, on the ones that we do at the Forge. So
Yep.
my guess is microphones at the Forge are causing the problem, and the quality of the audio of the microphones themselves is what the problem is here.
Okay, there's only one microphone, and I agree. The fingers pointing at that one microphone. In some contexts, it's an extremely good microphone, but in the context that we're using it, it stinks. So
is it possible, there's some, it doesn't really make sense that we can hear it, but could there be feedback happening from people in the room?
It's not feedback. It sounds like it sounds like something is being overdriven in a preamplifier somewhere. However, the volume itself tends to be low, which doesn't make any sense to me.
And that doesn't explain why the participants who speak also have poor audio on the recording.
True. Well, it may, because the computer may be trying. So most computers will do this thing. What's the name? There's ducking is what it's called. At least at radio stations, it's called ducking. What it is that if there's a loud sound, it'll automatically drop the volume. So if there is one sound, one microphone from anybody that's too loud, the computer will duck. In other words, drop the entire sound level down. However, that doesn't mean that that one volume that's high won't distort. It may be distorting, and it's just the level that it's at is causing causing it to go down. My feeling is, and I mean, I hate to say this because it's an expense, is that really I have my cousin and a good friend of mine both have to do online teaching of music. And in order to do that, they require that the students and they have condenser microphones. He has a mixer at his location, and both of them have mixers at their location, so they can mix in an inline signal coming directly from the electric piano plus microphones. And they'll use more than one, especially if there's a table of people, there'll be more than one microphone. The microphones cannot be omnidirectional. They got to be unidirectional in order to work properly and not pick up the speakers behind them. Otherwise, you're going to get feedback. You lower the volume to a lower volume and it sounds like hell. And I think this is where the problem is. We just don't have good enough equipment at the live event, and it's causing everything to screw up.
Okay, and I would submit that a little more testing is going to further clarify. But I agree with your hypothesis. Let's resume the agenda, and thanks a lot, Carl.
All right. That was the wrong button.
Well, you were displaying a screen and then it disappeared. You were essentially displaying us.
Yep. Yeah, I thought I clicked the PowerPoint button, but I clicked the hang up the receiver button. And...
There you go.
All right.
You can full screen it if you want. There you go. That's perfect. Oop, you're back again.
So start from current slide. It's not the current slide. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
You can buy this on Amazon for not very much. It's a paper target that you shoot BB guns or air pellet guns. And it has a little net in the back that traps the projectiles, and then you look where the holes are and add up your score. So I'd like to see what it would take to make an electronic version of this that would do the scoring automatically. So any ideas?
Did you mean to make the shared screen go away?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the extent of my presentation.
And a damn good one it was, too.
Thank you, Nick.
Machine vision.
So use a paper target.
And put a camera on it.
Yeah.
But okay, so the paper sits right in front of the catcher thing. So
yeah.
I was going to ask, how hard are those? Is the surrounding material? Is it hard plastic?
I believe it's hard plastic. Yes.
Is it curved or is it flat?
It is a netting.
No, the surrounding plastic, the hard plastic.
Oh, around the paper target?
Yeah, I think that's what he means.
Oh, I don't know. Let me look at the picture.
Okay, just a quick.
It is flat and angled in somewhat.
So if it's angled, cool. I would just argue, the voice of experience speaking. If it's flat,
you'll get ricochet.
You will get a ricochet, and it will hit you in the face.
It depends on how close you are.
Yeah. So if it's curved, I'm not sweating, but that happened to me once. pure accident that I still have vision in both eyes. So the other aspect, the real reason I brought that up though was not ricochets into somebody's face as much as the camera should be positioned so that a carom off of that edge doesn't hit the camera.
Okay. I'm sure a piece of 1/8" Lexan would deflect any and all BB.
Could make the camera bulletproof.
Yeah. BB proof. I won't say bulletproof, but
Yeah, I mean, you could be having a 50 caliber, in which case the problem is different.
no, that's not what we're doing.
And then that wouldn't do as well catching it.
True.
No.
I will say that Amazon had some other targets which it was black, but the impact of the BB left so it's like an 1/8" BB, and it left like a 1/4" fluorescent green diameter circle. So somehow it, and that would make machine vision even better. Easier to detect. Right?
So what do you want to do? You want to do machine vision, which you want to do what for you?
I want to have it add up the score in real time, so I know what my score is.
Oh, so it can actually see where the BB hit, and then be able to figure out what the score would be based on where it hit.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be machine vision.
No. I mean it's a great first idea.
The point Paul was making with his eyebrows just then.
I see. And so there doesn't have to be a paper target. There can be, a nested set of cylinders that represent the target.
So you detect the BB going into one of the cylinders.
Yeah, or if it's like a skee ball thing, if they're all individual compartments, you detect which compartment it rolls around and falls out the bottom of.
Wow. So then you just, you have different paths and break a beam or something to count the BBs as they come out in a nice convenient pile.
Yep.
It'd be kind of, sorry. It would be kind of neat if there was one additional way of not having to have a piece of paper each time. On the other hand, people like to have records.
Right, that the paper gives you a record, but it's certainly not a requirement.
You could have the tubes behind the piece of paper.
Right.
But the image that's normally on a piece of paper could perhaps be projected. Oh, except that you're going to punch holes through anything that it's projected on. Never mind. That over time, that doesn't work. Yeah. Right. I was going the other way where, okay, maybe you don't care about paper records, but something would get messed up that way. Oh, actually, does it have to be?
I'm happy with electronic records.
Now I'm trying to imagine like the thing is somehow in shadow and you can somehow project.
Well, you could create a waterfall and project on the waterfall.
Oh, what about a fog? What about some fog?
Yeah.
So Nick could bring over his can of liquid nitrogen.
I mean, I can imagine if you illuminated the inside of the cylinders with different colors, some kind of Fresnel lensy thing, you might be able to see different colored rings. Yeah, I don't know how important it is for aiming to have nice crisp edges on the rings.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly a factor. I was thinking if the feedback was fast enough, you could forego a lot, but but ultimately you need to see the actual target areas reliably. It can't be something that's going to go weird when the sun breaks out of cloud or something. What about is there some scheme along the lines of spotting where the BB goes by in like X and Y terms? I guess that's another machine vision. And is it a given, or can it be a given that you have to swap paper targets for each round?
I would say that's not a requirement to have paper targets at all.
Well, and unless nobody can imagine a system that that gets along without them, right?
Well, I mean, so there's something at the back of those cylinders, right? And if that something is a piece of Lexan with a string of LEDs, neopixels, that's going to be bright enough to be able to see different colored rings. So I can imagine that you can get visibility of the target without having paper.
Okay. Given that, how do you detect the BBs and score?
I don't know. I mean,
Well, I rest my piece. I mean, my case, not my piece.
Well, that's what we're supposed to. I mean, if the only answer is machine vision on a paper target, then.
Well, you're talking a $5 ESP with a camera.
Okay.
I mean, that's almost as cheap as the paper.
It can probably figure it out faster than you can cock the BB gun too. So it can probably, yeah, and put the score up with nice big fat numbers, so everybody standing around can go, oh, I can beat that.
Yep.
Perhaps it could be a display that shows like the current shot and the cumulative score, stuff like that.
Right.
You can do face recognition on an ESP, not particularly good face recognition, on one of the ESPs with the built-in cameras, which is basically what a doorbell camera is. So, they're $5. If you never need some, I have a number of them. And you just, so I would think detecting a tear would be, wouldn't be complicated.
Yeah, especially if you have two images that you can diff, one before the shot and one after the shot.
Well, how about a little tiny face? Oh, no, sorry. You'd have to have a lot of them, but and then have it disappear from the ESP's view. Yeah, I was thinking also with if the machine vision is has got some capability with respect to face recognition, it could automatically detect who's shooting if you had like a mirror or some way of switching the view.
Okay. Any brilliant electronic means of detecting a small chunk of steel passing through a field at high but not absurdly high speeds?
Oh, that's an interesting idea. It's kind of like exactly the opposite of the way the old CRTs worked, right? So they were steering electron beams, and this would be taking the same information going in the other direction. Yeah, that would be like the hardest possible way you could do it.
All you need is an FPGA, right?
Yeah, and time.
I got a
What
snoring
about
dog here.
what about something on the sidelines, watching the BB go by, and using like range finding?
Mighty small target.
Well, and the problem is you would need a zillion of those range finders.
What if you had a plate behind it? I mean, I have one that has a plate, but it's angled so that they bounce down.
Yeah.
And maybe you put microphones on the corners of it, and do like time of flight sensors from the microphones to determine where it hit.
That's cool.
You may have to, so the electronics that handles the amplification of the microphones needs to be adjusted quite precisely so that the volume level of each one at the point where you're testing it is the same. Like if you were to hit a bullseye right in the middle, that you would get the exact same volume in all the mics. That may be hard to do any adjustment to.
Again, you could run it through a machine learning and say, these series of acoustic samples were bullseyes, these were in ring this, these were in ring this, and it will handle all the
that's what the
tuning for you.
That's what the actual machine learning stuff does, right? It categorizes the data into groups.
Yep.
But you could have an algorithm that takes or a model or whatever that will take those sounds and convert them into like a peak or a point in time. And as long as they're all doing it consistently, and then you've got the relative times, then based on the speed of sound, I think maybe you could figure something out. As opposed to trying to do with amplitude or whatever.
I think that's a pretty good, and that would, one of the things I was also thinking, if you're in the third ring out, it would be nice to know whether you were high or low, left or right from the bullseye, and having these multiple microphones would allow you to zero in on exactly where it hit and provide that feedback. Okay, any other ideas?
How do you detect the baby going through an existing hole?
So it's interesting. I just read an article about that. I think it was in the Olympics, and the rule back then was if you can't see the hole, they assume you missed. And so some guy who most likely shot through an existing hole, lost his medal because they didn't, because he had a great cluster. The rule now is, so if they can count up, they count, maybe do 10 shots and they count 8 holes. There was something about the supposition now is that you went through the whole, if you have a good cluster of shots. And so if all of your things are within the inner couple rings and there's one they can't find, they assume that it went through the hole as opposed to it totally missed the target.
Okay, I was just going to observe that Jonathan's system would detect it, but the machine vision would not necessarily detect it. But Jonathan's would be
Yes,
just as easily
and
to
this
detect
doesn't
the
require
second one.
paper.
Right.
Yeah. Jonathan, you said you had one that has a plate angled down.
Yes, it's angled. It's just a little square thing, and the plate sort of angles from the bottom from the back at the bottom to the front at the top.
Okay.
So as you hit
Do
it,
you
they
use
bounce
paper
down.
targets
Yes.
in front of it? Okay.
I was trying to think if there was something you could actually hit and sense, where something that would be tough enough in the front to withstand the abuse, but also convey just a little bit of force through the back, so that you could put like a resistive touchscreen kind of thing back there,
Something that's pressure sensitive.
or pressure sensitive in some way. Yeah.
Behind some mystery material.
Yeah. You never know what I don't. It'd be interesting to see what would happen if you just increase like the thickness of a piece of plexiglass or something. And I have an airsoft gun. It has plastic bullets, so maybe a little less damaging than the BBs. But
Hey, Nick, would graphene have any piezoelectric effect that may be useful in a situation like this?
Yeah, graphene is kind of expensive to do that with. You can run barium titanate, which is a piezoelectric material, which would give you a pulse that would travel across the surface.
Yeah. So my idea is that you could then measure the amplitude of the pulse in across the linear surface, so you know where on that sheet of material you actually hit it.
Yeah, depending on the force of the BB, I mean, you could have a touch screen behind it and sort of bounce off the touch screen.
If you
So
don't
what
break
if
the
what if the
glass.
plate what if the plate were cut into rings? And so which one you hit would vibrate, but the others would not vibrate. I would think that would make detecting a lot easier.
yeah, give you the distance from the center. It wouldn't give you the quadrant or whatever. But
That's right.
But
you could cut quadrants
true.
and have 4 times as many detectors.
Buttons, metal buttons.
But are there competitions where the quadrant is relevant, or is it just rings?
It's just for feedback to help you zero in on where the bullseye is. I suspect that shooters can see if they're high or low, right or left, but if you didn't have a paper target,
The paper target would come in handy.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, but this is the mouse pad from my my Mac, and the surface is metal.
It's capacitive.
So it would reflect a BB, and it knows where I'm pushing, but I have no idea how it works.
Magic.
Yeah,
So that's just a touchpad?
it's a touchpad, but it's a metal touchpad.
Okay.
And it's for my Mac. I don't use it very often, but it's very sensitive, picks up pinches and all sorts of other things. And this surface here is hard metal.
And that's the surface that you
That's the
make your
surface you touch.
gestures
Yeah.
on?
Yep.
Okay.
So with paper targets, it seems like a set of concentric circles and a kind of a dot of that material that Nick mentioned that's piezoelectric would be sufficient. The paper would give the user the explicit information of where the hole is, and the ring signaling tells you what scoring ring it was. So, and that the electronics for that would be really simple.
It would also tell you if you had this 2 different BBs in the same hole.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, that I mentioned that earlier. That I mean, this
It wouldn't tell you necessarily.
it's kind of a
which hole.
variation on what Jonathan proposed. Pardon?
It wouldn't necessarily tell you which hole it went through again, but it would.
Yeah.
It would at least detect.
Yeah, that's true.
Picky.
Geez, you want to cover all the bases, huh?
No, I'm just saying. I think it's been a good discussion. All right, any other ideas? All right, Nick, are you prepared for
Somewhat.
Vueify?
I'm never completely prepared. That would confuse everyone.
Right. That's why I asked.
I was thinking that I need to that I should go through some JavaScript stuff and particularly Vue stuff to explain what the tools I'm using and how to put stuff into the aardvark. So I was going to go through. Let's see if I can.
Remind us what aardvark is. What is that?
I have no idea. It's an anteater thing.
Some of the people watching this YouTube will have no clue either.
Well, yeah, screw them. It's no, but the aardvark is the body of the code that is the host side of Edge. And it's I wasn't going to go specifically into the Edge code, although I'm going to use that as an example. I was just going to start off by showing the tools that I use to put it together, because I writing Node code can be difficult, and I've got a reasonable environment for it. So I was going to use the aardvark Edge tools as a show you basically the code, go through JavaScript and some of the way that the Vue stuff works, and then it'll probably be several sessions, but just how I not what I'm doing, but how I'm doing it, which I think building an environment to do stuff is as interesting as in some cases as doing it. Let me see.
So aardvark is a body of JavaScript code that runs in someone's browser and gives them graphical user interfaces to another part of the Edge system that involves embedded apps. So
yep.
Yeah, okay.
And it's the first thing is that after looking at a number of ways to input text, etc., because the code is fundamentally text, there's a program that JetBrains has called WebStorm, and without WebStorm, my life would be meaningless. It's a very, very well supported piece of code, and it does a whole bunch of the nastiness of JavaScript. If you had to do JavaScript in something like nano, then the world would not be a nice place. So the first thing to do is to, if you want to start playing with JavaScript, in my opinion, is to get a copy of WebStorm. There's a community version which is free. I have the paid version. The paid version has the capacity to remotely to debug on a remote machine. That's not something that I use in this case. All of their paid versions allow that remote debugging. When I was doing some Python script, which was running on different machines, so I don't begrudge them their money every month at all. So they also have a program that if you're on an open source project, as we are, they will give the team doing the development a license for free. I'm aware of it. I haven't explored it, but it would be, even if we got a free license, I would continue to spend the $30 to or whatever it is per month. I think it's less than that, to get it, because I think they need my support. Let me see if I can get this stupid screen sharing thing working. Okay, I can't guarantee exactly how legible this will be, but it seems to be. I can go through the high points. Let's see. I'm sharing my screen.
And what program is this? Is this
this is a program called WebStorm, and it is
WebStorm?
it's from JetBrains. And it's a your screen is sharing. Show me what I'm sharing. Okay. Okay, not bad. Okay. Let's see if I can. Okay. That's interesting. So the screen, it's a very nicely done IDE. All of my code is in this aardvark directory. There are numerous subdirectories that have various components in it. There are JavaScript has a couple different dialects. There's Microsoft has this version called, I think it's called TrueScript, which is very, very persnickety about ensuring that all of the parameters that you pass to functions are what you think they are. And because as JavaScript doesn't do typing particularly well, shall we say, a lot of problems are because you're not passing the right type of object. And when objects get thrown around, it gets very confusing. TrueScript, I think it's called TrueScript, is a pain in the ass, and I tried to use it because it makes and just I found it more frustrating. So this is straight JavaScript that I'm running. The WebStorm does type checking and will tell you pretty much what the parameters that you're passing into a function are, so you can kind of get the you don't make the it will help you figure out what type of object you're passing, and that's one of the big bugaboos. There's a mixture of a dialect called Vue, which is a toolkit. JavaScript is a royal mess. There are English language is a royal mess. JavaScript kind of grew up organically, and it has once you get used to it, it is very, very. It has a lot of stuff in there. It's pretty powerful, and I'm ashamed to say that. So it is. There's a mixture of JavaScript programs and Vue programs. The Vue program is translated into JavaScript and written out to the big JavaScript file in the sky. So you are working in JavaScript. It just does it translates what you're doing in the first pass. There is the convention is that you have a package file. Okay, come on. The package file contains the names of all the packages that you are using. If you want to bring a file in, it comes in through this. There are two main package managers. There's a package manager called npm, which is Node Package Manager, that actually brings in the modules, and it's a dog. It takes forever to do it because it actually copies the module into the directory, the subdirectory that it's building in. There is a second version which is called PNPN, which only brings in the linked files, and that takes your build time from minutes to seconds. It's a and its syntax is the same as npm. There are a bunch of other. There are a couple other ways of bringing in packets. I happen to use PNP, and it's worked fine. So it is. I've got a list here of all the dependencies, and it kindly works out dependencies and sub-dependencies, and does a very good job of bringing stuff into the directory. If I want to bring in a particular package, I can easily. I just tell it to install, and PNPN installs the package. It gives me the version. I can go in and edit. It'll tell me what version. I can go in and if I'm not at the current version, this is all in WebStorm. It tells me when I mouse over it, it gives me all the information that I would need to make a determination whether I actually want to upgrade. Tells me all the information about it. Really, this is the kind of thing that WebStorm does a very nice job of. There is a package which is true magic. It's called Webpack, and it's mentioned here. Webpack takes the JavaScript and removes all the spaces and packs it into one or a couple files, and takes care of essentially building the entire object. I haven't had to investigate it. It looks like a horrendous piece of code that is doing a whole bunch of things, and it's doing them right. So you've got the build process is that you run the Vue stuff over the Vue files. They produce JavaScript files. The JavaScript files are then investigated by Webpack and packed up into one big file. Well, actually a couple files, but everything, it looks for redundancies. It does a superb job. So it's and I've looked at the code, and I've looked at the configuration files. I've never had to touch them. They scare me just because it does such a superb job. I've never had to munch it. I may have to on some of the more advanced features, but it's a without it, you'd be, you'd go crazy. So there's a this is your main. You've got a main app Vue file, which is translated into JavaScript as all the Vue files are. I'm not going to go into details about what all the commands do. You've got an import which tells you which of the files, be they files imported through PNP or files that you've written, you have to import the files into the JavaScript module. So let me go into this one. It's a little more interesting. So you've got a top level app file okay. You've got a top level app file that that sort of lays out, am I a single page? All of this is a single page, or do I have multiple pages? You then define a template, and a template is basically a module. The nice part about the templates is that they are once this is my home page here is a template, and this is all the code for that. The home page has a toolbar. The toolbar is another template which comes in from another template file. The data table is a module, and the system is smart enough to know. See, where is it? Data table. Data table. Okay, so this is an entirely this is an entirely self-contained module that will run entirely independently. It's a template file. The template is what defines what you visually see. So in this is quasi HTML. The form here, it's templates nested on templates nested on templates. But I can take at one point I took my home page and made the entire thing a template, and then was able to import it into another file, and it worked perfectly. So that the whole template system is highly nestable and really, really well defined. Everything in a given file is, let me go back to the home page. So the data table declares a table, which in this case is the listing of all the ESP devices it can find out there. These various template things define drawers, tables that pop out. They're all. This is all the visual stuff. When you've got the template, you declare whatever files you want to import, and then you get into your JavaScript code, which is it's not JavaScript. It gets a little confusing. You've got various classes of objects, which have to all be accessed in their own peculiar way. The top level here you're looking at is the program, is the subroutine that scans for ESP, what ESP devices there are out there, and returns a list of them. This is absolutely straight Java code. There's not a whole bunch. There are calls in there to Vue type functions, but this is essentially straight JavaScript code. console logs. I'll get into some of the wickedness. You then have an export function. The export function gives you has various classes of objects in it that are externally accessible. You've got a what they refer to as a computed object. What these are functions that the let's see, headers. If I go up